In this short presentation, I am going to introduce the idea of network power. This is an important concept to understand how power operates in an interconnected world. So, just to go over the concept of power, it has two aspects to it: the capability aspect, which is the capability to mobilize your economic resources, and the control aspect, about how you can influence other actors to follow your commands or your writ or your hegemony in the world. So power is the ability of actors to mobilize their capability and enforce their control. So now we ask the question, how does power operate in an interconnected world? So first of all, this interconnected world has two aspects to it. We will just explore this through two quotes. So first by John Maynard Keynes, writing in the early 20th century. He writes about how the inhabitant of London could order by telephone, sipping his morning tea in bed, the various products of the whole earth in such quantity as he might see fit, and reasonably expect their early delivery upon his doorstep. So Amazon is not such an old idea. He could at the same moment and by the same means also adventure his wealth in the natural resources of the world and get into new enterprises of any quarter. So, of course, financial mobility and physical mobility is a part of this interconnected world and something which has existed for a while. So, globalization then is a phenomenon that isn't unique to our times. And globalization, in fact, is a characteristic of the modern world, the modern world which has existed since the 15th and 16th century with the interconnectivity of commerce, especially through shipping. But steam power is another important phenomenon which we have discussed in our various presentations on Halford Mackinder. Now, this idea of globalization, when we just think about globalization, we tend to talk about the movement of goods and finance. But even globalization in terms of the movement of ideas is something that has been spoken about for a long while. So Francois René de Chateaubriand, and I hope I pronounced that right, he spoke about this other phenomenon associated with globalization, that is the movement of ideas. So once you have steam power, once you have telegraphy, once you have railways, it will make not only distances disappear, not only will commodities travel, but also ideas will travel and ideas will have wings. So people have been speaking about this movement of ideas, goods, and finance, everything for a long while, and they have been understanding this basic nature of globalization, which is founded on both hard technology, that is physical infrastructure, and soft technology, that is social networks, because physical infrastructure mobility allows you to build new social relationships and exchange new ideas. So this has been forming our world for a while. So just to sort of introduce two other ideas associated with this physical networks and social networks and the interactions. So physical networks are founded on infrastructure. You need the infrastructure for facilitating movement, infrastructure and technology, of course. And social networks are founded on institutions and norms. So you need, say, languages, you need publishing, you need certain forms and ways of thinking to be able to talk and communicate with people. So, this idea of physical connectivity is explored brilliantly by Parag, Khanna in this book called Connectography, and I'll do an in-depth review of the book as well. So the core idea that Khanna proposes is that competitive connectivity is the arms race of the 21st century. And just think about the Belt and Road Initiative, which I also have a presentation on. But network power, again, goes into the social domain of connectivity. And this focuses on the standards which you need for connectivity: languages, commercial standards, regulations, international law. So, all this, in a sense, is a soft technology of connectivity. Working together, the hard technology and the soft technology of connectivity is how globalization works. And when we talk about power, the people or the powers or the actors who control that physical infrastructure, who have the ability or the capability to make those standards or to set those standards or norms, those are the people who have the most network power in this interconnected world. So, this is network power. Network power is something that operates in this interaction between hard and soft technology, between connectographies, and between the norms and standards which make our globalized world. And it always has. Think about Chateaubriand, think about John Maynard Keynes. There are people who exist in a certain time period in which there is a hegemony of Europe. And Keynes, of course, is talking in the context of the British Empire, which still existed at that point of time. It was just at its sort of dusk. So, a network is united by a standard which is shared, a norm or practice that facilitates cooperation between members. The more people use that, the more valuable it becomes. And value, of course, the people who define value, who control value, those are the people who have power in our networked world.